My friends, I want to ask you a simple yet profound question today. Are you willing to let the Holy Spirit change your life? Many people say they want God's presence, but when He knocks on the door of their hearts, they hesitate. They hold on to their own ways, their own plans, their own desires. But I tell you today, God is calling you to something greater. You see, the Holy Spirit is not just a vague force or a feeling. He is the living presence of God, moving in the lives of those who are willing to surrender. He convicts, He comforts, He guides, He transforms. And if you allow Him, He will take you from where you are and lead you to where you are meant to be. But the question remains, will you let Him? Some of you have felt empty. You've tried to fill the void with success, relationships, pleasures of this world, yet none of it satisfied. My friend, nothing can take the place of God in your life. The Holy Spirit is waiting to fill that emptiness with His love, His power, His peace. Others of you have been struggling. You've been hurt, rejected, betrayed. People have walked out of your life. But let me tell you this, if someone truly wants you in their life, they will make room for you. And if the world has pushed you aside, God is drawing you closer. He is saying, come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest. The Holy Spirit does not force Himself upon anyone. He does not break down the door of your heart. He waits for you to invite Him in. He is ready to change your life, but only if you let Him. Today I challenge you, stop resisting, stop running, stop doubting. Open your heart, say, Lord, I surrender, fill me with your Spirit. And when you do, you will see a change that no human power can bring, a peace that surpasses all understanding, a joy that no circumstance can shake, and a love that will never let you go. The Holy Spirit is ready to transform your life, but you must invite Him in. God does not force Himself on anyone. He is not an intruder. He is a loving Father, patiently waiting for His children to respond to His call. From the beginning of time, He has given humanity free will, the ability to choose. He created us in His image, not as mindless beings programmed to obey, but as people who have the power to decide whom we will serve. And that same choice stands before you today. The Holy Spirit is ready, willing, and able to enter your life and bring a transformation beyond anything you could imagine. But He will not do it without your invitation. So many people live their lives feeling lost, confused, and burdened by the weight of their past mistakes. They carry shame, regret, and brokenness, believing that they are too far gone for God to reach them. But my friend, there is no place too dark, no past too broken, and no sin too great that the Holy Spirit cannot redeem. He specializes in taking what is shattered and making it whole. He brings beauty from ashes, light from darkness, and hope where there was none. But you must be willing to say, Lord, I need you. Come into my life and make me new. Imagine a house that has been abandoned for years, windows broken, dust covering every surface, walls crumbling. No one would want to live there. But when the owner decides to restore it, everything changes. He begins to clear out the debris, repair the brokenness, and fill it with warmth and light. That is exactly what the Holy Spirit does in a person's life. When you invite Him in, He begins the process of restoration. He doesn't just clean up the outside. He renews you from the inside out. He changes the way you think, the way you see the world, and the way you live your life. But here's the truth. The Holy Spirit will not enter a place where He is not welcome. He does not force His way into your heart. He does not come crashing through the door. He knocks gently, waiting for you to open. In Revelation 3:20, Jesus says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in to him and dine with him, and he with me. He does not say He will break down the door. He does not say He will force His way in. He says, if anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in. The invitation must come from you. There are many who hesitate because they fear change. They know that if they invite the Holy Spirit in, He will begin to work in their lives, and that means they may have to let go of certain things. Some hold on to sin, unwilling to release the things that bring temporary pleasure but lead to destruction. Others hold on to their own plans, afraid that surrendering to God will mean giving up control. But let me tell you, whatever you give up for God, He will replace with something far greater. Whatever you release, He will restore. Whatever you surrender, He will use for His glory and your good. Some people believe they are unworthy to invite the Holy Spirit into their lives. They look at their past, their failures, their struggles, and they convince themselves that they must first get their life together before coming to God. But that is a lie from the enemy. You do not have to clean yourself up before coming to Christ. You come to Him as you are, and He does the work of transformation. He washes you, renews you, and makes you whole. You don't fix your life and then invite Him in. You invite Him in and He does the fixing. Others resist because they are afraid of what people will think. They worry that surrendering to God will make them different, that friends or family will not understand. But my friend, there is no greater tragedy than rejecting the Spirit of God because of the opinions of men. People's opinions change. Their acceptance is fleeting. But God's love is eternal. He has been calling you, pursuing you, waiting for you, not to condemn you, but to give you life. The Holy Spirit does not just come into a person's life to visit. He comes to dwell. He takes up residence in your heart, making you a new creation. He gives you strength where you had weakness, peace where there was anxiety, and joy where there was sorrow. But He can only do this if you let Him in. Right now, He is knocking. Right now, He is calling your name. Right now, He is waiting for your invitation. Will you let Him in? Nothing in this world can fill the emptiness in your heart like God's presence. People spend their entire lives searching for something to satisfy the longing deep within them. They chase after wealth, thinking that if they just earn enough, they will finally feel secure. They pursue relationships, believing that if they find the right person, they will finally feel complete. They seek power, fame, success, and pleasure, hoping that one of these things will bring them lasting fulfillment. Yet time and time again, they are left empty, unsatisfied, longing for something more. That longing is not an accident. It is a sign that the human soul was created for something far greater than what this world has to offer. God created us with a desire for Him, a hunger that nothing else can satisfy. The reason so many people feel lost, restless, and unfulfilled is that they are trying to fill a God-shaped void with things that can never truly satisfy. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy peace. Relationships can bring moments of happiness, but they cannot provide the deep, abiding joy that comes from knowing God. Success can bring applause, but it cannot give the assurance of eternal love. No matter how much we try to fill ourselves with the things of this world, we will always find ourselves coming up empty, because our souls were made for something more. Throughout history, people have tried to find fulfillment in every way imaginable. Kings have built empires, artists have created masterpieces, scholars have pursued wisdom, and yet at the end of their journeys, many have realized that none of these things truly satisfied their hearts. Even Solomon, one of the wisest and wealthiest men in history, wrote in Ecclesiastes that everything in this world is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. He had power, riches, knowledge, and every pleasure available, yet he found that none of it could fill the void within him. It was only when he turned his heart toward God that he found true peace. So many people today feel restless and dissatisfied, even when they seem to have everything. They may have good jobs, loving families, and comfortable homes, yet there is still an emptiness inside. They distract themselves with entertainment, social media, and constant busyness, trying to ignore the deep ache in their souls. But distractions cannot heal a heart that is longing for God. Only His presence can bring the peace, joy, and fulfillment that every human soul desires. Some people recognize that they are missing something, but they don't know where to turn. They try religion, thinking that if they follow enough rules and rituals, they will find peace. But religion without a true relationship with God cannot satisfy. Others turn to self-improvement, hoping that if they just become better versions of themselves, they will finally feel whole. But no amount of self-effort can fill the void that only God's presence can fill. It is not about what we do. It is about who He is. When you invite God into your life, something incredible happens. He fills the emptiness with His love. He replaces the loneliness with His presence. He takes the brokenness and restores it with His grace. His Spirit brings a peace that the world cannot give and a joy that circumstances cannot take away. This is why so many people throughout history have given up everything for the sake of knowing Christ. Because once you experience the presence of God, you realize that nothing else compares. People try to numb their emptiness in different ways. Some turn to addictions, hoping to drown out the pain. Others throw themselves into work, hoping to find purpose in success. Some surround themselves with people, hoping that companionship will fill the void. But the truth is, no matter how much we try to run from the longing in our hearts, it will always be there until we finally turn to God. Jesus said, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." He was not speaking of physical hunger or thirst, but of the deep spiritual need within every human being. The world offers temporary satisfaction, but only God can provide what truly lasts. His love never fails, His peace never fades, and His presence never leaves those who seek Him. If you have been searching, if you have been longing for something more, if you have been trying to fill the emptiness in your heart with things that always leave you feeling empty, I want you to know that there is hope. You do not have to keep searching. You do not have to keep striving. God is waiting for you with open arms, ready to fill your heart with His presence. Will you turn to Him? Will you let Him satisfy the longing of your soul? If someone truly wants you in their life, they will make room for you. Life is full of relationships, family, friends, colleagues, and people we meet along the way. We invest time, energy, and emotions into these connections, hoping to find love, acceptance, and a sense of belonging. But so often, people find themselves feeling unwanted, unappreciated, or pushed aside. They reach out to someone only to be met with indifference. They fight to keep a place in someone's life only to be treated as an afterthought. It is a painful reality, but one that reveals an important truth. When someone truly values you, they will make space for you in their life. This is not about demanding attention or forcing relationships to work. Love and friendship are not things that can be begged for or imposed. A relationship that requires constant pleading is not a relationship at all. It is an illusion. A person who truly cares will not leave you questioning where you stand. They will not make you feel like an inconvenience. They will not disappear when life gets busy or only show up when they need something from you. True love, whether from friends, family, or a partner, makes room. It makes time. It prioritizes. People will often say they care, but words without action are empty. Love is more than just a feeling. It is a commitment. It means being present, being available, and making sacrifices for the sake of the relationship. It means choosing someone even when it is not convenient, even when life is busy, even when there are challenges. It does not mean perfection, but it does mean intentionality. No one is too busy to make time for what truly matters to them. If someone constantly tells you they are too busy, what they are really saying is that you are not a priority in their life. The painful truth is that some people will not make room for you no matter how much you try, no matter how much you give, no matter how much you love them. And that is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their choices. It is not a sign that you are unlovable, but that they do not have the heart to love you the way you deserve. Holding on to someone who does not want to make space for you only leads to heartbreak. The more you chase, the more you exhaust yourself. The more you try to prove your value, the more you lose sight of your own worth. But here is the greatest truth of all. While people may fail you, God never will. The one who created you, who knows you better than anyone else, has already made room for you. He has not placed you on the sidelines. He has not forgotten you. He has not treated you as an afterthought. From the very beginning, he has pursued you with an everlasting love. He does not wait for you to be perfect. He does not love you based on what you can offer him. He simply loves you because you are his. God does not make excuses when it comes to you. He does not say he is too busy. He does not push you aside. He calls you his own and invites you into a relationship with him that is deeper, more fulfilling, and more real than any human relationship could ever be. While people's love may be conditional, his is unconditional. While people may come and go, he remains. While people may reject, abandon, or betray, God stays. He has prepared a place for you, not only in this life, but in eternity. He sent his Son to prove his love, to show you that you have always mattered to him. When you understand how deeply God values you, it changes the way you see yourself. You no longer have to beg for love. You no longer have to fight for a place in someone's life. You can release the ones who do not value you, not with bitterness, but with peace, knowing that your worth is not determined by their acceptance. You can walk away from relationships that drain you, knowing that you are made for more. You can stop striving for approval, knowing that you are already accepted by the one who matters most. God's love is not a love that asks you to shrink yourself, to compromise your worth, or to beg for attention. It is a love that embraces you fully. It is a love that makes room. And when you truly experience that love, you will stop settling for anything less. You will no longer chase people who do not see your value, because you will know that the one who matters most has already chosen you. The love of God is enough. It is secure, unwavering, and everlasting. Will you let go of what is not meant for you and embrace the one who has always made room for you? Struggles, rejection, and pain are real, but God's love is greater and unshakable. Life is full of trials, and no one is exempt from hardship. Pain touches everyone at some point, whether through the loss of a loved one, the betrayal of a friend, the weight of loneliness, or the crushing disappointment of shattered dreams. Rejection cuts deep, leaving wounds that sometimes feel impossible to heal. Struggles drain the heart, making even the simplest tasks feel overwhelming. There are moments when the burden feels too heavy, when the road ahead seems too uncertain, and when hope appears too distant to grasp. In those moments of darkness, it is easy to feel alone. It is easy to believe that no one understands, that no one sees the depth of the suffering. People may walk away, friends may fail to notice, and the world may move on as if nothing has happened. The weight of rejection can leave a person questioning their worth, wondering why they were not enough, why they were overlooked, or why they were cast aside. The struggles of life can make even the strongest heart feel weak, and the pain of loss can make even the most faithful soul question if God is near. But even in the midst of the greatest pain, there is a truth that never changes. God's love is greater than any struggle, stronger than any rejection, and deeper than any wound. While people may leave, he remains. While circumstances may shake, his love stands firm. When everything else falls apart, he is the solid foundation that cannot be moved. His love is not based on performance or perfection. It is not conditional, fleeting, or uncertain. It is steadfast, unwavering, and eternal. God never promised a life without trials, but he did promise that we would never have to face them alone. His word reminds us that when we pass through deep waters, he will be with us. When we walk through the fire, we will not be consumed. Pain does not mean abandonment. Struggles do not mean God has forgotten. Rejection from people does not mean rejection from God. In fact, it is often in the hardest moments that his presence becomes the most real. He is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Rejection is one of the most painful experiences a person can endure. It cuts at the core of identity, making one feel unwanted, unworthy, and unseen. But the truth is, human rejection does not define a person's value. Being cast aside by others does not change the fact that God has chosen, loved, and called his children by name. Even Jesus, the Son of God, was rejected. He was betrayed, mocked, abandoned by those closest to him. He understands the pain of rejection more than anyone. Yet through it all, he remained secure in the Father's love. He knew that his worth was not determined by the opinions of men, but by the truth of God's unchanging love. Pain has a way of making a person feel isolated, but no suffering is unnoticed by God. He sees every tear, hears every unspoken cry, and understands every hidden ache. When the world is silent, he listens. When no one seems to care, he cares deeply. When everything else feels uncertain, his love remains the one thing that will never change. No storm is too strong, no hurt is too deep, no burden is too heavy for him to carry. God's love does not promise the absence of pain, but it does promise the presence of peace. It does not eliminate all struggles, but it does bring strength to endure them. His love is the anchor that holds firm when the winds of life threaten to pull everything apart. It is the light that shines even in the darkest night. Those who put their trust in him will never be truly abandoned, never be truly alone, and never be without hope. Every person will face struggles. Every person will experience rejection. Every person will encounter pain. But those who are held by God's love will never be defeated by them. They may be pressed but not crushed, struck down but not destroyed, wounded but not abandoned. The trials of this world are temporary, but the love of God is eternal. And no matter how heavy the burden, how deep the wound, or how strong the storm, his love will always be greater. God's plan for your life is far greater than anything you could imagine, but you must trust him. Every person has dreams, desires, and hopes for the future. People make plans, set goals, and work tirelessly to create the life they envision for themselves. Yet, despite all their efforts, life does not always unfold as expected. Doors close, opportunities slip away, relationships break, and unexpected struggles arise. It can be frustrating and even heartbreaking when things do not go according to plan. When prayers seem unanswered and the future looks uncertain, doubt begins to creep in. But even in those moments of disappointment, God is still at work. His plan is always greater, his ways are always higher, and his timing is always perfect. Human understanding is limited, but God sees the full picture. People often chase after things they believe will bring them happiness, only to realize later that what they wanted was not what they needed. They hold on to relationships that were never meant for them, pursue careers that leave them empty, and make choices based on what seems right in the moment rather than what is best in the long run. But God, in his infinite wisdom, knows what is truly good. He knows what will lead to joy, peace, and fulfillment. He knows what will strengthen and not destroy, build up and not tear down. He knows what aligns with his perfect purpose. That is why he sometimes closes doors, because he has something better. That is why he removes certain people, because they were not meant to be part of the journey ahead. That is why he allows delays, because he is preparing something greater than what was expected. Trusting God's plan requires faith, especially when things do not make sense. When everything is going well, it is easy to believe that God is in control. But true faith is tested in the waiting, in the uncertainty, in the moments when nothing seems to be happening. It is in those seasons that trust must be placed, not in circumstances, but in God's character. He is faithful, he is good, he is loving, and he does not make mistakes. What may seem like a setback is often a setup for something far greater. What may seem like a loss is often a necessary step towards something better. What may feel like an unanswered prayer is often God's way of saying, I have something far beyond what you could ever ask or imagine. Impatience often leads people to take matters into their own hands, to force things that are not meant to be, or to settle for less than God's best. But when people try to control their own lives instead of surrendering to God, they often end up with regret, frustration, and unnecessary struggles. God's timing is perfect. He is never late, never early, but always on time. There may be seasons of waiting, but the waiting is not wasted. God uses every moment to prepare, strengthen, and refine. He does not withhold blessings to cause pain, but to bring about his perfect purpose. Throughout the Bible, there are countless examples of people who had to trust God's plan even when they did not understand it. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned. For years, his life seemed to be a series of setbacks. But in the end, God's plan was revealed. He was elevated to a position of great influence, and what others meant for harm, God used for good. Moses was called to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, but the journey was not easy. He faced opposition, doubts, and hardships, yet God's plan prevailed. David was anointed as king at a young age, but he spent years running for his life before he ever sat on the throne. Each of these individuals faced moments of uncertainty, but their trust in God's plan led them to something greater than they could have imagined. God is still working in the same way today. He is leading, guiding, and orchestrating events in ways that may not be understood in the moment. His plan is not always revealed immediately, but it is always unfolding. The closed doors, the detours, the delays, all of them are part of something bigger. What may seem like disappointment today may one day be the very thing that leads to the greatest blessing. Surrendering to God's plan does not mean giving up dreams. It means trusting that He knows what is best. It means letting go of control and allowing Him to lead. It means believing that even when life does not make sense, God is still in control. And when His plan is finally revealed, it will be greater, fuller, and more beautiful than anything that could have been imagined. God's grace is greater than your past, stronger than your failures, and more powerful than your fears. Every person carries a past. Some have moments they wish they could relive, choices they wish they had not made, and regrets that weigh heavily on their hearts. Mistakes, failures, and sins can leave scars that seem impossible to erase. The past has a way of whispering lies, telling people they are unworthy, unforgivable, and beyond hope. Shame can feel like a chain, holding people back, keeping them from stepping into the fullness of life that God has for them. But no failure is too great for God's grace. No mistake is beyond His redemption. No past is powerful enough to override His love. The enemy wants nothing more than to keep people trapped in guilt. He will remind them of their worst moments, play their failures on repeat, and convince them that they are defined by their past. He will say they can never change, that they are too far gone, that God could never use someone with a history like theirs. But those are lies. The truth is that God's grace is bigger than any sin. He is not waiting for perfection. He is waiting for surrender. He does not reject the brokenhearted. He heals them. He does not turn away the sinner. He restores them. His love is not based on performance, but on His unchanging nature. The Bible is filled with people who had a past, yet God still used them for His glory. Moses was a murderer, yet God called him to lead His people. David committed adultery and arranged for a man's death, yet God called him a man after His own heart. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, yet he became one of the greatest leaders of the early church. Paul persecuted Christians, yet God transformed him into a powerful preacher of the gospel. Time and time again, God has taken broken people and used them for something far greater than they ever could have imagined. He does not see people as the world sees them. He sees them through the lens of grace. Many people believe they have to clean themselves up before coming to God. They think they have to fix their lives, correct their mistakes, and reach a certain level of holiness before they can be accepted. But that is not the way grace works. Grace meets people exactly where they are. It is not something that can be earned. It is a gift, freely given. Jesus did not come for the perfect. He came for the lost, the hurting, the sinners. He came to seek and save those who could not save themselves. He does not demand perfection before offering love. He offers love that transforms hearts and brings new life. Fear can keep people from embracing grace. Fear of not being enough, fear of failing again, fear of stepping into the unknown. Many hesitate to move forward because they believe their past will always define them. But God is not holding on to the past. He is calling people into a new future. He is the God of new beginnings, the God who makes all things new. When he forgives, he does not keep a record of wrongs. He removes sins as far as the east is from the west. He restores, renews, and redeems. Regret does not have to be the end of the story. The enemy wants people to believe they are forever marked by their failures, but God says otherwise. He takes what was meant for harm and turns it for good. He takes broken pieces and creates something beautiful. He takes past mistakes and uses them as testimonies of his power and grace. There is no sin too great, no failure too deep, and no past too dark for God to redeem. Living in grace means letting go of shame. It means refusing to let the past dictate the future. It means believing that God's love is stronger than any mistake and that his mercy is new every morning. It means trusting that his plan is not derailed by human failure, but rather he uses even the broken parts for his glory. God's grace does not just forgive, it transforms. It takes the weak and makes them strong, takes the lost and gives them purpose, takes the unworthy and calls them beloved. His grace is not just enough, it is more than enough. It is overflowing, unending, and freely given to all who will receive it. The past may have shaped a person's story, but grace is what rewrites the ending. No matter what has been done, no matter what has been lost, God's grace is greater still. No matter where you have been, no matter what you have done, and no matter how far you feel from God, his love is still reaching for you. You are not beyond redemption. You are not too broken to be made whole. His grace is greater than your failures, stronger than your fears, and deeper than your regrets. He is not asking for perfection. He is asking for surrender. He is calling you to step out of shame, to release the past, and to walk in the freedom of his love. The world may remind you of your mistakes, but God calls you by your name. Others may reject you, but he welcomes you with open arms. When people fail, he remains faithful. When life feels uncertain, he is unshaken. His plan for you has not been canceled, and his purpose for your life is still unfolding. Let go of what is holding you back. Stop chasing after people who do not make room for you. Stop believing the lies that say you are unworthy. Step into the grace that has always been waiting for you. God has already made room for you in his kingdom, in his heart, and in his perfect plan. He is ready to renew, restore, and redeem. The question is, will you let him? Will you trust him? Will you surrender the past and embrace the future he has for you? His arms are open, his grace is sufficient, and his love is everlasting. The choice is yours. He is waiting.